Good morning and welcome into the special morning edition of Sports Talk on a Budget. Going to be traveling today, so decided to record this in the morning before I get out and go back home to California. But obviously, this is Sports Talk on a Budget. Please like and subscribe to the show right down here if you're listening or watching on the YouTube video. And then like and subscribe to the show on podcast version. It's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and basically wherever you get your podcasts under Sports Talk on a Budget. Loaded show today. Two main topics around here. Going to do my baseball, my MLB season preview, and then I'm also going to do my Final Four preview. Of course, the NCAA tournament is down to the Final Four, and wow, do we have an interesting Final Four. One clear favorite, but still an interesting Final Four. Going to break that down. Going to let you know who I think is going to win those matchups in the Final Four, and then who I think is going to win the championship as well. But like I said, we'll start with the MLB season preview. With all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the show. So as I mentioned, my MLB season preview will be my first topic of the day, and I know we're already underway. We started last Thursday with baseball. Actually, we started a couple weeks ago with the Dodgers and Padres in Seoul, South Korea. They started off with that first series there, but either way, the real opening day was last Thursday for most teams, and been a crazy weekend this first weekend. The Yankees sweep the Astros. That was some big news. Dodgers look pretty good. They get a comeback win on Sunday night against the Cardinals. Some other things. I mean, who thought that the Pirates would be 5-0 to start the season? That was something I didn't see. So season is already underway. As we know with baseball, long season, so you really can't take much from the first weekend and kind of look into the future unless there's major injuries, which there hasn't been, thank God. So right now, it's still everything's up in the air. Long season in baseball. We got all the way till basically the second week in October before the playoffs start. So a lot of time left, but wanted to kind of go over the top storylines, and then I'm going to give you my division picks and my wild card picks for who's going to be in the playoffs in both leagues, in both the American and National League. So some of the top storylines, if you focused or paid attention at all to this offseason for the Dodgers, or sorry, for baseball, it was a lot about the Dodgers. They spend. They bring in, obviously, Shohei Ohtani, Yamamoto, Teoscar Hernandez, Tyler Glasnow. They brought in a lot of high-end players, and the question is, are they inevitable? Is this going to be the year that the Dodgers finally break through in a full season and win a World Series? And they're the overwhelming favorite this year. And now that they have this kind of gambling scandal with Ohtani and his interpreter kind of hovering over the team, is that going to be a distraction? This team is loaded. Obviously, Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez, Max Muncy. They still have a decent rotation as well. So this is going to be a tough team to beat, but there seems to be a team that always looks awesome and really good in the regular season. And then the playoffs come around and they stumble. And that's been their MO for the last 2-3 years. They stumble against lesser teams like the Padres 2 years ago or the Diamondbacks last year. So is this Dodgers team able to go over the hump? They're the overwhelming favorites. A lot of people are picking them to win the whole thing, especially winning the NL. It's basically them against the Braves in the NL, in my opinion, but I'll get to those later. But either way, are they inevitable, and can they put this gambling scandal with Ohtani and his interpreter behind them? It's still kind of swirling. It's gotten quiet a little bit, but it's still kind of swirling, and can they put it behind them, or is this going to be something that hovers over them the entire season? And especially when the guy with Ohtani, who was without a doubt the face of the MLB right now, they can't have this scandal go on for much longer. So hopefully they can put it to bed. Don't know what happens there. Fascinating scandal. The things were wild that came out from that scandal with Shohei Ohtani. The things that the interpreter did, the bookie he used, the amount of credit line he got from the bookie. Just a crazy story. I may get into that in another day if any more details emerge from that story. But like I said, it's kind of quieted down lately. But either way, let's see if the Dodgers can put that away and move forward with the season and finally get to a World Series and win a World Series in a full season as well. And then a couple other questions that I wanted to look at, or storylines I want to look at. Who is going to be this year's Diamondbacks? 2 years ago was the Phillies that made an improbable run to the World Series. The Diamondbacks made an improbable run last year to the World Series. Who is going to be this year's Diamondbacks? Is it going to be a team like the Cincinnati Reds? Or, I mean, hey, the Pittsburgh Pirates are 5-0. Is there going to be start off 5-0? Is there going to be this year's Diamondbacks? I don't know, and I don't really know exactly what teams it would be. If I had to pick one, I would think it might be the Cincinnati Reds. I really like their young nucleus, and they have a good young rotation. They have good young players as well with Ellie De La Cruz and other guys. So I think the Cincinnati Reds could be that kind of sleeper team to maybe make a run. If you're looking in the AL, it's a little bit harder to find. Most of those teams are kind of established or at least big brands. So maybe, I mean, the Mariners wouldn't really count. They were in the playoffs a couple years back. The Rays don't really count. The Orioles are already established now. The Yankees, of course, are a big brand. The Astros don't count. The Rangers are defending World Series champions. And that's another storyline. Is there any way that the Rangers can repeat? They're not really a heavy favorite to get back to the World Series or even repeat. They still have a ton of talent. Corey Seager, you still have Nathan Eovaldi. You still have a ton of talent on that team. It's going to be tough for them because the AL is very tough right now. Obviously, they have the Astros in their own division, which is going to be difficult. You have the Orioles in the East, the Jays in the East, the Yankees in the East, the Rays in the East. The East is a stacked division. I'm hoping the Red Sox, as you can see behind me, can do something. They're actually 4-2 right now. They're playing pretty good ball. So hopefully they can keep it going. They're going to need a lot of breaks and not a lot of injuries to their main players because they have a lot of young players and then some veteran players. But either way, I don't know if I see like a Cinderella team or like kind of a this year's Diamondbacks team in the American League, but I do maybe see it in the National League, and I think that team could be the Cincinnati Reds. And then, like I said, the other storyline was, can the Rangers repeat? I wouldn't bet on it right now. I don't even think they'll win the American League, but anything is possible in baseball, especially when you get into October. What we've seen these last couple of years, like I said, the Diamondbacks were in the World Series last year, the Phillies the year before, the Padres made it to the NLCS the year before that. So anything can happen in October in baseball, and we are a long way away, and things can happen throughout the season. Like I said, it's a very long season, and a lot of ups and downs are going to happen throughout the season, and things are going to change, and maybe just the total scope of things may change as well. But let's go ahead and break down the divisions. I'm going to start in the American League. I'm going to start in the American League East, and who I have winning the American League East is going to be the Baltimore Orioles. I love their young players. I love their young nucleus. I think they have a good pitching staff as well, and they finally have the momentum and the confidence after what they did last year to continue what they've done and win the division in the East. It's not going to be easy with the Blue Jays, the Yankees, the Rays, and even if the Red Sox can get things going too, it's not going to be easy. You could say that this may be the best division in the American League and in all of baseball, but I like the Orioles team. I think they're really a really good team, and they have, like I said, what they did last year gave them the confidence to go into this year and know that they can win this division and they can compete on a high level in the regular season. In the Central, that's a tough division. I'm going to stick with the Twins. The Twins were the team that won the Central last year. This may be one of the weaker divisions in all of baseball. I think the Twins are clearly your number one favorite. Let's see what the Guardians can do with new management. Let's see what they could do. And then the White Sox, let's see if they can bounce back. It's this division is kind of a little bit, like I said, a question mark. I think the Twins are clearly the best team and have the most talents, but it's not by a wide margin. And I think if the Twins were in any other division in the AL, I don't think they would win it, and I think they could finish third in other divisions. But they happen to be in the Central, which is, like I said, the weakest division in the American League and maybe in all of baseball. And so that's why I think they win the division and go back-to-back division champions there. And then the West, I went back and forth. I know that they started 0-4 this past weekend, but had a no-hitter on Monday night. But I like the Astros to win the West. Just a team that always seems to win, always seems to make big plays in big moments, get big hits in big spots. They have a solid rotation. Yes, Verlander's getting up there, but you still have Framber Valdez and other guys like that. So I think they'll be set and they'll look fine to win the division. Losing Jordan Montgomery for the Rangers is going to hurt a little bit. He was kind of a good piece in that rotation to go along with the Eovaldi and other guys as well. So I like the Astros to win the AL West. I know that they haven't gotten off to a good start, getting swept over the weekend at home. But like I said, this is a very long season, 162 games. A lot of things can change, and I really don't take much from an opening weekend to look forward to the season. So give me the Astros in the West. And then my three wild card teams will stick in the West, and I'll go with the Rangers as a wild card team, and then we'll stay in the West as well. I'll go the Mariners as a wild card team. Mariners will actually be my final wild card team. I think the second place wild card team will be the New York Yankees. As much as it pains me to say that as a Red Sox fan, They have that lineup with the additions of Juan Soto. Alex Verdugo is an underrated addition as well. If they can get him to kind of focus up and play ball and not worry about other things, that could be huge for them. So they just have an unbelievable lineup. Now, the Garrett Cole injury, is he going to be out for 60 days? Is he going to be out for longer? A lot of people think he may not even pitch this season. So that could be a big issue because the rotation is not very deep once you get past Garrett Cole. So that could be an issue for them. They're going to score runs like they always do. The question for them is going to be their pitching. Is it going to be good enough without Garrett Cole for probably most of the season, if not all the season as well? And then we'll move to the National League. We'll stay in the National League East. And I have the Atlanta Braves winning the division. I like the Atlanta Braves to win the division. There's other contenders. Of course, you have the Phillies that can contend. We'll see if the Mets can bounce back. But I think the Braves are the class of this division. I think they'll challenge the Dodgers in the National League to go to the World Series. But give me the Braves to win the NL East. In the NL Central, this is my darling team, my dark horse team this year. I have the Cincinnati Reds winning the NL Central. Like I said, I love their young talent. I like their young rotation. Ellie De La Cruz seems to be that guy you can kind of rally around, that young phenom you can rally around. I really like what they're doing in Cincinnati. And in the Central, in the NL Central, kind of like the AL Central, there's no dominant team. We'll see what the Cubs can do. We'll see what the Cardinals can bounce back. Do the Pirates stay that hot? What happens with the Brewers? So there's no dominant team, and there's no reason the Reds can't win the division this year. So I like the Reds in the NL Central. And then the NL West, I think it's fairly obvious. I'm going to go with the Dodgers. And we've talked about them already, the offseason moves that they made, the players and the roster they already had before those offseason moves. This team they're a force. They're a team that is stacked top to bottom. Their rotation isn't great, but it's going to be probably good enough with Buehler returning and the addition of Glasnow. You still have Kershaw there for another year. So this is a team, if they don't get to at least the NLCS, it's a giant disappointment. And I think they have to get at least to a World Series for it to not be a real disappointment. And then my wild card teams are going to go back to the East, and I have the Philadelphia Phillies making the wild card. I have the Arizona Diamondbacks making a wild card with that late addition of Jordan Montgomery. I really think that helps their rotation. And then my third and final wild card team is going to be the Chicago Cubs. They bring back Cody Bellinger. You keep some of the other players as well. And like I said, they play in the Central where there's no dominant team. I have the Reds winning that division. But there's some other teams. Like I think the Brewers could have a down year this year. Do the Pirates stay that hot? I think the Cardinals could be in for another down year as well. So there could be a lot of wins to be had in the Central, and the Cubs could be a beneficiary of that. So I like the Cubs to be that final wild card spot in the National League. So those are my playoff teams right now. If I had to pick a World Series champion, I'm actually going to go with the Atlanta Braves. I think they're going to beat the Dodgers. I just don't trust Dave Roberts in October. I just don't. I don't trust Dave Roberts in October. And Shohei Ohtani has never played in big games in his entire career. He has never played in big games for the Angels. So we'll see if he can come through in big moments for the Dodgers. I like this Braves team. Can they get something out of Chris Sale in that trade with the Red Sox? You still have a very, very good team, very good young team. Ronald Acuna Jr. is one of the best players in baseball. Very good lineup, very good rotation with guys like Strider, and now you have Sale. So I like the Braves. The Braves would be my pick today for the World Series champion. And then we'll go to my final topic of the day, and that is going to be my Final Four preview. And like I said before, this is an unusual Final Four, and just some question marks going in. Question marks and storylines I wanted to look at going into the Final Four is, first question is, can anybody stop UConn? UConn is dominating the tournament right now. They're blowing out every team they play. They're looking to go back-to-back for the first time in the NCAA tournament since the 07-08 Florida Gators under Billy Donovan with Joakim Noah, Corey Brewer, Al Horford. That team was stacked. They were the last team to go back-to-back in college basketball, at least in men's college basketball. So huge storyline there. Burns versus Edey in the Final Four games. So you got DJ Burns versus Zach Edey. That's going to be a huge matchup. I'll get to that a little bit later when I'm previewing that game. And then does Alabama stay hot from three? And I'll get to that a little bit more in their matchup as well, but that is kind of what they do. So we'll see if they can stay hot from three and can challenge UConn. But let's go ahead and preview this first game. The first game on Saturday is going to be the 11 seed out of the Midwest region, NC State, versus the number one team, the 11 seed out of the East region, NC State, versus the number one team from the Midwest region, that is Purdue. Purdue was currently an 8.5-point favorite in this game. And As I mentioned in the opening here, DJ Burns versus Zach Edey, that's going to be a matchup for the ages. DJ Burns is getting NFL consideration to maybe play tackle or offense or defensive tackle or maybe even guard because of how big he is and how well he moves his feet. 6'9", over 310, 315 pounds. Big guy, moves well. Actually, I think he's about 280, 290, my bad. He's about 290, but still, big guy, moves well, is very skilled as well, has a good left hand, has a good right hand. He's actually left-handed, but has a good right hand as well. Good off the dribble, good with a little baby sky hook like a la Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So he has a lot of skill, and you're going up against a guy against Zach Edey who has dominated the tournament so far. The Purdue has leaned on their best player and the guy who has gotten them to a number one seed in back-to-back years, and that is Zach Edey, of course. And they've leaned on him. Went off for 40 against Tennessee in the Elite Eight game and needed basically every single point of those 40 to basically beat Tennessee. Had that huge block on Dalton Connect at the end of the game, which kind of sealed it for the Purdue Boilermakers. This is going to be a huge matchup. This is kind of probably what's going to determine the game, but still, just want to look at NC State for a second. NC State was sitting at 17-14 going into the ACC tournament about 3 weeks ago. They had to win the ACC tournament just to get into the NCAA tournament. They go 5 wins to win the ACC tournament, beating teams like Duke, that improbable buzzer beater to force overtime against Virginia, beating North Carolina in the ACC championship game. So they win 5 games there, and then they have won 4 games to get to the Final Four. They have won 9 games in a row. Like I said, they were 17-14, and now they're 26-14. This is one of the most improbable runs I've ever seen. This kind of harkens you back a little bit to the Kemba Walker run for UConn back in, what was that, 2011? They were a team that was a bubble team going into the Big East tournament back then, and they pretty much had to win the tournament to kind of leave no doubt or make a good run. They win the tournament, leave no doubt, and then, of course, Kemba Walker went off there in the entire NCAA tournament, and they win the whole thing. NC State has that feel right now. Do I think they're going to win the whole thing? Probably not, but they have that feel right now, and who would bet against them? They've won 9 elimination games in a row. They lose in the opening round in the ACC tournament. They probably don't even get an NIT invite. They may have after every team that did get the invites originally kind of turned the NIT down, but they were barely an NIT team, let alone an NCAA tournament team. They win 5 games in the ACC tournament to get into the NCAA tournament, and now they've won 4 to get to the Final Four. Just an unbelievable run. Hats off to Kevin Wyatt's and the NC State team there. They are hot right now, and so I think Purdue wins this game, but I think NC State keeps it close. So give me NC State plus 8.5 in this game. I think NC State will cover that 8.5. Give me NC State plus 8.5. They're just a team. I'm not going to bet them to lose by that much. I think they stay hot, and people are like, oh, there's another break, there's another week off. Well, they had a week off after the ACC tournament, came into the NCAA tournament, looked really good. They had a week off after the second round before the Sweet 16, came in and knocked off teams like Marquette and Duke back-to-back, a 2 and a 3 seed, and they kind of put it to both of those teams at the end of the game. Like, they put it to Duke at the end of that Elite Eight game, and they got to Filipowski, they got him out of the game. So can they do that same thing they did to Filipowski to Zach Edey? Is going to be a lot more difficult, but still, I like them to cover. So like I said, give me NC State plus 8.5 in this game. And then we'll go to the other matchup, and that is the 4 seed out of the West region, which is Alabama, and then the 1 seed out of, this is actually the 1 seed out of the East. Purdue is the 1 seed in the Midwest. And so the 1 seed out of the East, UConn, and UConn is an 11.5 point favorite in the Final Four game. That just shows you how dominant they've been. UConn actually is winning by an average of 27.5 points in this tournament. And if you combine it with last year's tournament, they're winning by a combined 28.5 points in their last, that would be 10 tournament games. So UConn has been absolutely dominant. They're a team that could play inside and outside. They shoot well from the 3, and they have good bigs down low, but it's not exactly their offense that gets them those big margins of victory. It's their defense. Their defense has been stifling all tournament long. They shut down a guy like Terry Shannon Jr. for Illinois. I think he had like 2 or 4 points in that game. He was one of the best scorers and best offensive players in the tournament going into the Elite Eight game. They went on a 30-0 run after they were tied in the first half, basically put away Illinois. Illinois is a very good team. They won the Big Ten. They were playing really well in the tournament. They're a very good team, and that 30-0 run basically ended things, and UConn, after that, they basically just hammered them. And like I said, to shut down a guy like Terry Shannon Jr. like that just shows you how good this defense is. And they're going to need that defense to show up again, which I think it will, because Alabama is the highest scoring team in the country. They're the team that shoots the most threes, basically, of any team in the country. They have the highest percentage. They have the highest 3-point attempts per game, and they make it at a high clip as well. That is kind of their MO. They live and die by the three. They're very analytics driven that way. That's how they beat North Carolina. They knocked down a lot of threes. That's how they won late against Clemson, as they got hot from three and knocked down a lot of threes there as well. So this will be interesting to see, because UConn holds teams to the lowest 3-point percentage that they have basically all season when they play UConn. Illinois had their lowest 3-point percentage all season, basically, when they played UConn in the Elite Eight, and that has been the result for a lot of other teams. So if Alabama isn't able to hit their threes, I don't think they keep this game close, and that is going to be a huge key here. Like I said, they live and die by the three, but that is what UConn does really well on defense, is defend the three. So I don't love this matchup for Alabama. Alabama doesn't exactly have the size down low to contend down low with UConn. I don't think their defense is very good. Alabama is not a great defensive team. So I think UConn's going to be able to score inside and outside against Alabama. And the fact that that UConn is the best defensive team against the three of any team basically that was in the tournament, or any team in the country, and that's what Alabama specializes in. Like I said, I don't like this matchup here. I think UConn wins, and wins handily. So give me UConn minus 11.5 to march on and continue their dominance as well. That would set up UConn versus Purdue, which I think would be a dream matchup for the NCAA. You have two number one seeds. You have Zach Edey, who's probably going to win the Player of the Year again after he won it last year, versus the best team in the country in UConn. I would like UConn in that. Don't know what the spread is, but I think UConn wins Saturday and then wins Monday night and cuts down the nets for the second year in a row, giving UConn their 6th national championship and their 2nd under Dan Hurley. So I like UConn to win the whole thing, but excited to watch the Final Four. This is an unusual Final Four. You have some sort of blue bloods like you have in UConn. Purdue was a number one seed. Alabama, this is their first Final Four in a very long time. NC State, this is their first Final Four since 1983, when they won and beat Phi Slama Jama, Clyde Drexler, and those guys for Houston, under Jim Valvano. So this is their first Final Four since then. That's 41 years. So different Final Four. There is a little bit of blue blood flavor, but there's also some newbies as well. Going to be an exciting weekend. Can't wait to watch, but that is going to be my picks. I have NC State plus 8.5, UConn minus 11.5, and I think UConn cuts down the nets Monday night and wins back-to-back national championships. That has been my show for today. Thank you for watching and listening. Of course, if you like this video version, you can find it on YouTube under Sports Talk on a Budget. If you prefer the audio version, you can do that on either Amazon, Spotify, or Apple Podcast. Please like and subscribe to the show right down here, and leave a comment if you feel like you want to leave some constructive criticism, or if you like the content. But thank you again for watching and listening, and have a great day.